Good afternoon, Thorsten and Hoshiko.
Hello John, hi there.
We're at the Barbican on January 24th, 2020. Are you looking forward to the memorial concert tonight?
Absolutely, so something we never did before, playing acoustic, mainly acoustic. Okay, today, purely acoustic. So I think there were plans before, but never did it properly, to do kind of an unplugged set, which is a great thing inside my head, probably with metal players and string quartet or something. But today's the first try or attempt to play some of the. Okay, some are obvious because I'm playing some of the things that were played by piano before, but we played also one piece that's mainly a sequence piece and track, and maybe a little hint of a Steve Reich-esque music for six piano type of playing. Yeah, and let's see how it works.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And Hoshiko, you're going to use your violin tonight?
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's wonderful that Tangerine Dream exhibition is being held in London until May this year. How does it feel being a part of that history?
That's kind of strange. So because we are still playing, recording new music and playing concerts, it's kind of very strange to be part of a museum kind of project. So today it's mainly, I think, 72 till 85, the soundtrack works, and the first 2 decades of Tangerine Dream are the main points of the exhibition here. Yeah. So I'm only here since 70 years now. 17, sorry.
Yes.
So it was before my time, but it's absolutely amazing. Kind of proud to participate in that whole body of
do you think do you feel a lot of responsibility on your shoulders in some ways?
So we are the people who show our faces on stage when we play it, and so we are responsible for hate and sometimes love. But yeah.
2019 was quite a busy year. Many Tangerine Dream tours, and you're involved also in a few of your own projects. Do you do other things in your life, or is everything related to music?
I sometimes wish that I would have a music besides. Wrong. If I have a life besides music, not music beside my life. So there's very few points. And moments. So I think we are, because we are musicians by our nature, and have so for some reasons I have to make music and compose music for feeling okay in my life. So just watching Netflix series is fine, but so I feel kind of guilty to do it more than one episode of something and not go to the studio anymore. So we came here yesterday, and surely I was in the studio before we fly to London. I try to maybe it's not things people expect, but do a lot of cycling and I play tennis once a week for 3 hours. That's my that's sad but true. My great overview of my private life.
and also, when we're talking, I'm just thinking, do you actually have a musical instrument close by at hand? I mean, do you wait? Gary Newman mentioned this recently. He said he needed to stick a piano very close to him because he'd wake up in a dream and just have something, and he needed to do something.
Yeah, so
do you have them moments?
Yeah, my studio is on the floor under my living room, so it's but there are also sometimes instruments in the living room as well, but so I think it's 16 steps, and I'm in a studio where everything I like is like all synths, modular stuff, a lot of guitars.
So you can get up and just start playing.
Absolutely,
And if that happens...
And then being very annoyed when the UPS guy is ringing the door at 11 o'clock.
At night or in the morning?
Yeah, AM, but it's kind of so. Sometimes just go out of the sleeping room, just down the studio, and then it's 11 o'clock because the Amazon guy is ringing or the UPS.
Do you, I'm just thinking now. When I was talking to Ulrich, he said he actually lost time. Are you in the same mode, or do you run your own differently?
So to participate in the world around me, it's sometimes fine to wake up one digit, like 9:30, 9:59, to feel good, and to have the chance to participate in go to the shop or just a meeting with friends. So I'm normally working till 3, 4, 5 in the morning, and then just sleep 5 hours, and that's it.
Because he was saying he works.
He's moving around.
Yeah,
absolutely.
His life is he'll wake up at 6 o'clock and work through to 10.
Yeah.
But then if he sleeps differently, he'll wake up maybe 5 hours later and start earlier. But you don't work that kind of way.
The problem is, not the problem is a big word, and probably I got trouble for this. No, I'm sleeping in a room where alarm clock is ringing in the morning, and not because so my girlfriend have to wake up by time, so I have no chance to to sleep how long.
And I didn't know I was going to bolt these questions on like this, but these things pop into my head. But how about you're starting to play something and it's really good?
Yeah.
What do you do? Would you record it? Would you think, hang on, I haven't recorded this, or I'm missing this?
Mostly record everything, but I kind of it's very non-linear. So you don't have to record a step sequencer because the step sequencers run all the time. So mostly I'm doing some things on the modular and step sequencing, and so since November I rebuilt my whole studio to that I have the opportunity to record every instrument at the same time, like an orchestra. So before that I had 24 inputs. Now I have 18 something. So everything is connected, and just one button press, and everything could be recorded. I think in the last years many things changed because of the ideas and things I learned from the sessions on stage. Because this is a moment where everything's run at the same time. Normally in the studio you play part by part, you have 3 synthesizers, okay, play that, record it, and then play the next 3 or 5. But you have to sounds interact to each other. So if you have one filter set, maybe it's too nerdy, but you have one filter with a very low cutoff and a low pass filter. Probably with the next sound you would layer half an hour later. You should have turned it 1 millimeter up. So I try to let everything in CV and MIDI a long time before I press record, because every sound have a relation to the other instrument and should have readjusted, or you should have the chance to adjust every filter every time and not to go back and just doing with the equalizer. So that's the idea about it. So everything is running all the time. In a good way, it's in tune. So there's some instruments. That's the tricky thing for the Jupiter 8 synths and some of the Prophets. They are drifting from minute to minute, and after 1 hour they are probably not perfect in tune but sounding better. And So it's normally before a record, as okay, they have a tune button like the proper 500 8, but don't push it. Yeah. It sounds so different.
Isn't that what Tangerine Dream of old used to quite like as well? They realised the noises were not really what they were supposed to be, but they actually.
I think there's a mixture of everything. So it's fine to have the drifting analog way, to have the hybrid thing like the new Barbican Quantum, which is I think 6 analog oscillators and the analog filter section plus the sampling and the wavetable things. To have everything moving and feeding each other in a way. Yeah.
So when you're constructing music individually, as a solo artist in your home, how's that differentiating?
So the thing is, it's clear from the first second. So probably I'm not just doing music, to be honest. So practicing is one thing, but if I'm not writing music, the first second is clear. I'm doing things for Tangerine Dream, for solo stuff, for Picture Palace, or for someone else. Because the structure and the idea, and probably I told it too many times, the scales are, at least in my world, are so different, and so there are some notes you would never play in a melody by Tangerine Dream if you are referring to the scales of the 70s. So
no, I like the progression. Don't worry, I'm not your traditionalist Tangerine Dream fan. I like the early stuff, but I think that there's always been a natural progression.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so therefore I think that what was done in the past is the past, and what's happening now should be trying to run.
The heritage remains. So if I start music, it's clear it's gonna be Tangerine Dream, not only to use the minor third, like Fedra, but okay. So I play other notes, and other chords, but the idea and the concept is clear on the first second. So it's not. I'm not doing music and say to which project or band could be gonna fit, but it's not my kind.
So there's not behind the scenes. There's a big catalogue. And storage of lots of music.
Absolutely.
That hasn't been heard.
Yeah. So there are a lot of artists from Edgar. The good thing and the biggest problem at all is that we recorded everything since 2015. Everything. Every concert, every session, every rehearsal.
Apart from one.
Okay.
The one that got messed up.
The problem if you pull.
No, I just remember that one
pull
because
the power, then the recorder can't finalize the file, and then it's gone forever. That's the problem. Yeah.
Of course.
So if you have a roll.
And that was a special one though.
Yeah,
that was a really special one.
I think the 3 or 4 good sessions was I think the in the Museum of Musical Instruments.
That's the one I'm thinking.
The Ballhaus, Berlin thing, and in Russia I had an USB stick and a stereo thing, but the rest is gone because sometimes on festival I don't know. It's a word for the. Roll riser, the riser with rolls, with wheels. If you have a riser on stage with wheels, okay, called a riser on stage with wheels. The backliners just push the riser from the stage that they can set up or build up everything behind the stage.
Yeah.
But to do this, you have to unplug the power, and that's a problem. And sometimes you have 2 minutes. 3 minutes and then it's gone. But it's only happened 5 or 6 times. But on the other end, we have everything else, and I just.
You were doing the right thing on that particular night. I remember because you came out and greeted the fans, and you had the people in the back unplugging all the stuff.
Yeah.
And I suppose now you make sure you're behind the back.
So the problem is we have everything, which is sometimes equal to have nothing, to be honest, because I once copied everything in one project in the DAW, and it was 20 something days. So I never recognized that Cubase is that there's not only hours. They can say it's days, not minutes, hours. I first saw 16 or 70 days or 20 days now. So it's 64 tracks, 20 days. If you want to listen to every single track out of this 70 days, it's a 70 times 64 or 20. So it's more than a year without sleep. This is kind of a problem. And even if you're listening to the easy example, so Love and Retrain 2016, and you say, okay, that version is probably okay, and you skip 4 days, you listen for another 4 days to all your concerts, and okay, this version is also good. You can't remember the difference, and that's the biggest problem for the live compilation we try to do.
Because I was going to say, you can't probably library it properly, not when you're on the road as well. When you were doing your tour in Europe towards the latter part of last year, you were on coaches and things, so I suppose, part of your mind is focused on something, but you going to another location, you're going to
that's fine. The problem is to listen to all this.
And then establish what you're going to keep.
I need more than a whole year to listen it once, every single track.
So in theory, when these sessions have been released, it's actually
the sessions is just we remember, okay, that worked quite well, and just only take that half an hour, 1.5 hour of that concert and just editing it or just working on it. But the idea was to do a live compilation, to say, okay, let's take that piece of music from that concert and that piece of music from another concert. That's something we should solve sometimes. Probably we need more people in the studio who listen to crackling and hums on single tracks, but it's not a fun thing to work and to do.
And it's all on your shoulders. But then I suppose you're trying to battle the completers, as an example. Mm-hmm. So you do the Union Chapel. There'll be people who want to relive that. But then you may be thinking, well, that's not, as you just said, that's not so good as that. That actually didn't work, and then that faltered.
That's the problem. So some bands or solo artists just you can buy their whole concert on MP3 half an hour after the concert. That's kind of fine, but it doesn't work for me pretty well, because I like to be honest, edit something. I know I missed a note or a key or like the 38 session in Budapest. My analog stuff was in the van in the night before. It was minus 15 degrees. There was no chance to retune it even the evening after. So I like to edit every single track inside.
So in theory,
and retune it.
You are sort of ironing out some of these. But that's extra work
most
as well.
of mine. So drifting Voyager MOOCs, I like to retune it. You could say, if I edit everything 100% in tune, then there would be no difference between the concepts. Maybe that's right, because the melody stays the same, and maybe the drift of oscillator makes a difference. But I like to retune things and cut up crackles.
This is making me laugh, because I'm thinking that sometimes the fans have got OCD, but it seems like you can get that yourself, but you don't want to. But I understand where you're coming from, because you want to release something to perfection. You don't really want
it's very far away from perfection, but it's at least on a level I'm comfortably with. So I would say that it's fine if someone listens to it again. On the other hand, there's kind of I think the magic in the moment is a big thing that it can't or should not be repeated every time. So sometimes things work in the moment of the concert. After 2 hours listen to the main set, which are probably you did something on the same day. So you came to concert, probably go you have a conversation with the taxi driver. This leads to your mood. Listen to the concert. Listen to the main set leads to the session. And sometimes to repeat this can't transport the mood of the moment, which probably was in the moment okay for you, but not necessarily as good to hear it a year after.
I mean, people are discussing this. We were talking to someone the other week. He was saying that to be there, as you say, in the moment, and be at the concert at the moment, and capturing it and trying to memorise it at that moment is the best way to remember it altogether. And if you weren't there, then you should have been. And
it's mostly it's the rule for, I guess, the experimental sections of our sessions. I think it works like a progress of the whole day. But on an album, people would have the opportunity to just skip only on that section. On track, okay, not Tangerine Dream. We don't split the sessions, but you can just move forward to minute 30, and then listen to from that second on. For me, that doesn't feel so right, to be honest. But on the other hand, there's so many sessions we like to release. I think the Union Chapel sessions were very great, but I think the Barbican session was also a good one.
Yeah.
I think on tour, Oslo, Stockholm, the best sessions. From Oslo, or Warsaw, but Oslo could be the best session. So from the memory, could be totally different if you listen to it.
But if you can remember that now, it probably was, for sure.
Yeah. And okay, not to complain about the situation, no, but one of the good and bad things at the same time, I record everything pre-fader. So if something is still running on my modular system, but the fader's down, I still record it. So it's fine to have every opportunity to use it in a different second in the mix, but I don't have a stereo file of it. So I don't have the FOH mixing desk thing. I have every single track. So it takes his time to release and edit everything. So I need probably 2-3 weeks for a session.
Yeah. At last year's memorial concert in Berlin, you performed with Paul Frick, then you did the Seaside session together, and again tonight you performed with him. Will there be more performances and music to be expected in the future?
Yeah, but we played in Detmold at the concert, the Electronic Circus Festival. So we have plans to. Yeah, sure. Paul is a great piano player and a great musician, and a very good guy, very good in team play. So he's always used to have his trio formation. So it's great and he's a great guy, absolutely. And I love his playing. It's very different to. Ulrich has this very cloudy, morphing sounds and very crispy. I think I'm doing the analog stuff but mostly legato, but Paul is very like a staccato piano player, very rhythmic, and there's some element missing, to be honest. So it's like, okay, I can just twist or just readjust the ADSR curve of my modular system, but he can play all the very peaky and spiky and staccato-esque things on the piano or in synthesizer. So it's I think it works very good with him. So he played this tour, last tour he played, I think only in Berlin. Then he played in Dansk. And I think and there's a kind of new maybe one off, but probably 2-3 concerts together with Harald Großkopf from Ashra, and We play on the Easter Saturday. I'm not sure about the date. Could be the 11th April probably. Together with it's Paul Frick, Großkopf and me. So there are plans to do, absolutely to do, and so we also recorded the Detmold thing, and it's fine because there's only one recording of of it, and not 70 days. So probably we're gonna release it as well. Yeah.
All right, brilliant. So around the beginning of the year, Tangerine Dream released Recurring Dreams. What was it like to rework a number of historic tracks?
So it was always part of my work. So I think I came to Tangerine Dream by the Purgatory session. So it was totally different. But since 2005, where the 35th anniversary of Phaedra tour or concert in London, Shepherd's Bush, there was many remakes. I think the first remake I really liked was probably 2000 of my work. So I won't rate other people's work with people. It's not my position to do this. I think the first thing was Cloudburst Flight. The first rework I really like. I did. So maybe sequence D. No, okay, it was C, but the flute was working. So it was an old flute, and the deepest hole wasn't working properly. So on the Phaedra 2005. I played sequence C and D, to be honest, which is kind of so. But yeah, hey, this was okay too. But I think the first was Cloudburst Flight and things after it. So we always rework things. There were no big arguments about which tracks. So I think we have kind of common sense of which tracks we like, without hours and hours of discussion which tracks we should rework. But so this is, I think, it's a nice collection of it. Some new, some old. The Los Santos is kind of from the GTA 5 soundtrack, because there's no definite version of one part or track inside the game, because the game itself mixes the music. This is 8 stems who are mixed by the game itself, depending on the position inside the game, and so there are no. This is a real mix of it. So this is the first time the Parker's Mind thing. We never played live, but it was on the Lots of Chaos black metal mayhem movie. It's also fine. It sounds very cold. I think, but it was part of the game. It was a kind of even a hint of a room on the master song, because of it sounds more cold. This was the first rework of Hoshiko as well, with sequence C, now probably in C. Yeah, I think Yellowstone Park, Tangram, Horizon works well, I guess. Yeah.
So no one's offended by the fact that you're taking them on?
I think that, so that there was never a discussion, but there is no single backing track. So we're using backing tracks for Jonathan, so we have a drum and things like this. And so you can't play a concert without Edgar hearing a thing he played. This felt wrong on so many levels. So it was okay. So when Edgar was along with us, it's no problem to have some, maybe a bass sequencer line of White Eagle in the backings, but I wasn't part of that recording or that album. So it felt so wrong to have that line without him. So we had to rework and re-record everything, to at least for the moral kind of view.
But then again, I mean, you're taking on board a piece of music, say in White Eagle, that you obviously liked and thought you would like to touch it, and it means a lot. It means a lot to the fans. It means a lot to everyone. So I'd imagine, from my own perspective, that it'd be quite exciting anyway to take on that challenge and then to try to recreate.
The thing is, you learn many things and much out of this recording. So I listen to it in half speed or quarter speed sometimes. So it's good that the algorithms and programs are getting much better than 10 years ago. So you can listen to things in quarter time with the same pitch without having the Mickey Mouse effect. And fun thing is, as I did on the sorcerer thing, it was kind of symbol thing of notation, that I'm doing some kind of crosses and plus signs when they switch one knob on the modular system, because I like to have it exactly the same, and because it was not computer generated. Okay, it's a computer and sequence, but you know what I mean. It's not a software inside a PC or Apple. There was sometimes things like 20-30 milliseconds after he switched the button, and it was not periodic or no 60s, 32, 64 line. So sometimes it was kind of 73, and then he pushed the one knob that the next sequence is running, or just to mute one step out of the 16 steps. And I'm recreating it note by note. And so you learn a lot of what they were doing at this time, and how they did things. And this is so interesting. And try to listen to it in quarter or half speed. There are so many little things in the background that you probably don't recognize if you listen just to the stereo file in normal speed. And it's unbelievable. So in Horizon, the percussion section on Horizon Part 2, okay, it's on our Part 2 is probably the third section of the Horizon, because we skipped the middle section. There's so many little percussion and snare sounds I never would have programmed similar, because so many repeats of snares, but it works so great and so well, and so it's kind of have idea of a kind of a DNA in the music if you could record every note by note. And then after I record everything note by note, there kind of is a little bit time for a free decision to add something or to remove something or to produce it a little bit other in a different way. But first, it's note by note on every song.
Now, looking beyond tonight, 2020 already is looking busy. You're performing at the 7th Wave Festival of Electronic Music on Saturday the 7th of March, and you're performing solo and with Ulrich announced on this day.
Yeah, so playing twice. So that's the thing I normally was used to do this in Berlin and at some festivals, because I played in too many bands in the 90s in the same point, in the same week. So I think it's a good thing that Theo Travis is playing between us, I guess. So we start as Thorsten Quaeschning, then Theo Travis. He's the saxophone player of David Gilmour, and he played with gong. And then my first solo concert in UK is beside 5 minutes of piano today. But I think it would. And it's a church. I think it's going to be a great day. Well, hopefully.
Performing at the church is a good,
absolutely
good place. Yeah.
Great atmosphere. So maybe for more rocky kind of music, it could be a problem sound-wise. But I love reverb and delay, so it matches.
Yeah, but the Union Chapel. I mean, I felt the acoustic was quite good in that building.
Absolutely.
I would say that churches is a perfect place to perform concerts.
Absolutely. So the tempo of our sessions always depends on the room. So because we normally use no snare, so the reflection of the we try a very kicky bass drum for the sound check, and try to have the reflection on the next edge of the beat. but the reflection of it. So it works also on even some Göteborg was an open air, but with a roof, and so the reflection out of the ceiling that's combined in the same tempo, that it delays working with the room resonances. It's great to work with it. So it's less flattering, and so it's fine. And in churches it's very easy to have a big hall reverb and the delay, and you just only have to find it. So if the delay is longer, normally in churches, the session will be slower.
Will you hear that? You know, like generally you're on stage and you've got your little speakers on the front and your things in your ears.
So I have in ears, so I don't use so much.
So you won't feel it as such?
Yeah, I feel, and sometimes I just remove one of my in ears on one side to hear the room, and
yeah. Because I gather you're going to want to feel that.
Yeah,
sure. Especially that.
Yeah.
And most significantly, you were touring with Howard Jones with Ulrich mid to late April at 7 German venues. Firstly, how did this come about? And secondly, this artist is a blast from the past. How does it feel touring with him?
I think it's kind of more simplified than expected. So it's the same tour management. And we met sometimes in Berlin when Howard was playing there. He played kind of an 80s festival called Heroes from the Past something, and it was a great evening with Paul Young, the singer of T-Pow, Shining Hands, Mr. What's his name, Spanabali, and all the guys. It was great, and I think it could work musical-wise. He's a very nice, polite guy, person, and so 80s music. So maybe I was sometimes on the other side of the music in the 80s. So I was not the biggest fan of pure synth pop. Okay, Howard Jones is more than pure synth pop.
Well, I don't know.
Okay,
I mean, he was definitely in that.
It's unbelievably well produced and good melodies, but in the 80s I was listening. Okay, I was maximum 13 years in the 80s, born 77. I was listening to Stevie Wonder and kind of things, and after it was in the beginning of the 90s, Pearl Jam, grunge, and then mid-90s gothic rock. So it was kind of a gap between synth pop and...
I mean, really, it's quite interesting to realise that the 80s predominantly was a sort of an electronic era.
Yeah.
And Tangerine Dream obviously were doing their thing still throughout.
Yeah.
Perhaps more in the background, but albeit pioneers at the time.
I think Logos sounds very synth rocky because of the very melodic type of hooks. So it was.
But if it comes back to Howard Jones, I gather that in particular it would have been more the instrumentals. Or the more instrumental themed music that you would have preferred anyway, perhaps. Is he still touring with that guy in chains?
No, I'm not sure, to be honest. I think four people on stage.
Right.
Two keyboard players and one kind of something between electronic drums and also synth. So I'm not so good at names, to be honest, but
no, sure.
This is nice people. I met them, but
is it a bit the other way around as well? I mean, do you know if he's aware of your music?
Yeah.
And what his take is on your music?
He listened to some of our stuff, my stuff, and Tangerine Dream stuff. So probably it's the same. To be honest, maybe as easy as this is the same tour manager, and probably our tour manager named Thorsten Sohn had one of our CDs with him in the same night lineup, and just put it in and say, what's this? It's fine. And I think it's more very easy. It's like.
Well, I would have thought, for sure, he must have listened to Tangerine Dream.
Yeah, absolutely.
Must have done.
Yeah.
Because why is he making electronic instrumental music himself?
Yes, sure.
okay, there's some singing there as well. Don't want to completely degrade him, but it's like his strength in what I remember of his music. It was definitely the electronic synths that he was playing. So yeah, mutual respect.
Yeah, absolutely. So
a mutual respect tour.
Yeah, he's a great producer. So you know, I'm a kind of a Genesis kind of fanboy, and he also did one number with Phil Collins, and it's great. So it's probably not the coolest thing to say, to be honest. So maybe you have to cut it out or not.
Never leave it.
Okay. So I mean, the painter of Mogwai, his name is also Phil Collins, which is true.
Discussing with Ulrich in an interview last September, there is possibly a new studio album on the horizon this year. Do you feel that you will find time for this?
Yeah. So that was the idea to like for my so-called winter solstice, not doing many concerts or tours. So after last year we had too many concerts, some especially October, November. The year before was I always need not all my gear, but my basic gear on stage. So it was always on the road and coming back after concert on Saturday, probably on Monday evening, and have to leave on Thursday because we have to play. It was hard to find the time. So, but I think the first live activities this year could be earliest in summer, and so we have enough time to finish and produce and write the album.
So would I be correct in saying it's already started?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And Ulrich was saying that you may find a place in the middle of nowhere, and the three of you would go and visit this place and just thrash out stuff. Is that kind of
that's kind of the best case situation in our heads? So it would be great. So if it's somewhere near the ocean, would be great for me. Like it's Denmark would be fine. It's not in Germany or England. It's the UK, but everything would be fine. Or Netherlands, Rotterdam or something. To have kind of a house. Normally people could also book it for a holiday just for 1 month or 2 months and just doing it.
And do you think that's a good idea because you're all under the same roof? Sort of
absolutely, yeah.
Training your minds to sort of, well, not training your minds, but somehow getting that kind of connection where you feel the vibes.
If you're alone, you are sometimes on the side doing your own view of things. I think it's the same of hearing music, not kind of have one of the people in the same room, but if you have 2 or 3 other people, only 2 or 3 people in the room playing some music or just showing some of your music, there is a moment where kind of connection, you listen with the ears of the people in the same room. Because you are thinking what does he think about the music he's hearing at the moment. And if you listen to it alone, you probably don't. I think the border to boring is maybe moved 2 minutes away in music. So sometimes because you know what happens in your music. Even it's in hi-hat that the case is closing on 2 persons or moving from left to right. But if someone else is in the same room, you probably would, probably he doesn't recognize it or she doesn't recognize it. Okay, it's boring or it doesn't work. So it's good to have people around you. So it's like our mixes. We have kind of a vote for mixes, because we have a mix of digital summing and analog summing, with kind of 16 Neve analog thing where we put kind of subgroups in it and then record it afterwards again. And so I gave it some random names, and there's a vote which mix is better, the digital ones or the analog sound one. So it's always better to have a kind of collective to judge over a single note, over a mix or a melody or the length of it.
And I think I've seen it in the seconds where you definitely all bounce off each other. Like Hoshiko, for instance, she's standing there with her violin, maybe not doing anything, but then she suddenly seems to connect with the music, and then you just come in. Suddenly you're just
absolutely, yeah. So
they are doing her thing.
So I imagine that I sometimes can read her face if it's boring or not, and this is a good thing. Even standing there, mostly on stage, she's doing many of the loops, and more than 2018 on the tour, there was kind of a sound box thing with stones and pickup kalimba in it, and the metal things just for bell like sounds, and the boss looper. What was the name of the looper? The boss looper. Yeah. We saw this one first, not first, but that it works probably on the session with Richard Barbiri. He was a magician with it, and I said, we need this, and just bought it the week after. It's fine, but so it's always good to have more people involved. To have kind of a filter.
So you started to structure the album, but you still yet to go to that far off place to.
But there's time from February.
Oh no, there's a lot of year to go still.
Yeah, but we have the problem is if you want to release it this year.
Yeah.
I think the deadline is June something, because you need 16-18 weeks for the printing things for vinyl, and that is always everything is bundled together on the same day for release. So I think it would be end of June, mid-June something.
And being cheeky, do you think it would perhaps run into a double album, or do you think it would just another?
So I'm very sure it would be double vinyl.
Right.
But no, I don't think it's a good idea, to be honest.
Yeah.
So it has, the maximum would be 160 minutes, or 58:40 if you have the 79.20 minutes.
But you're not going to aim to do that.
But
you are.
We thought about it, and it was kind of a common thing to fill the whole 800 or 700 megabytes of a CD-ROM, but so quantity is not always quality. So it's, if you have good 50 minutes, 60 minutes, 40 minutes,
sure.
Maybe 40 is a little less, but it's a good thing. So
keep it quality. Yeah, definitely keep it quality.
On the other hand, I think if you think about the listeners, so who has the time to hear 160 minutes in a row? A hand signed by the Invisible Man on the other side of the table.
No. For that, you need to understand the Tangerine Dream fan, because I think people do actually set themselves time. They'll take time out to think, right, this is my time. Okay, 3 hours. I'm going to sit down on that chair, cup of coffee, and I'm going to inhale or digest that music.
Back to a half speed. No, sorry. It's double time. No, I think it's fine to have around 55, 65 minutes. I think it's a good album then. Yeah, and it would be double vinyl because of the vinyl side should be not much more than 17 minutes, 16 minutes.
Well, even the perfectionists now talking about vinyl has to be a certain weight to be a good quality as well. I mean, that's essential as well, apparently. So I don't know if that restricts the amount of music you can put to the vinyl.
Yeah.
Or bonus tracks, even.
I think that's it's quite likely that we don't. So the idea is not to only compose 60 minutes. So normally we compose more and then decide which is picked for the album or not. Yeah.
And just because these things happen when I'm sitting out, I've got questions to ask, but other questions form. Would this maybe more like a concept album in a way? Would it have a theme?
Yeah, maybe a concept of the way of doing it, but not a concept like let's just put on Broadway or something. The idea would be to learn out of studio situations combined with session situations, to have the fluid moments of a session combined by the more versatile options of choosing chords that are not in the scale you use in the moment. That's the trouble with the session. You can. It's hard to go from different keys to a totally different key because there's 3 people on stage. So it's hard to know for the others. If I play, okay, now I play a major. That's your problem now. Yeah.
Start speeding up the tempo and stuff as well.
So that's a good thing about studio situations. You can make the many chord changes out of the normal role of a cadenza. And a mixture of that is the idea, kind of a little bit the idea of Ricochet doing, not record a session, maybe live record a session, but maybe of studio record sessions. Say that part, maybe only that single sequence works, and let's work on this for another whole track.
Interesting, really interesting. So thank you for answering that question there. You bring it up, of course, it's still interesting. So someone sort of had a projection of the future themselves, knowing full well they're mortal, can't continue forever, whoever you are. And to actually, I mean, would you say some of these are like codes then in some ways? Even? Does it say, when you look at some of that musical structure, would you say it looks like codes even? Could it be deemed that way? It looks like a code even.
A code, yeah, absolutely. So I think that's was always involving Edgar's idea of melodies and chords. The thing is, I was not so much into electronic music before I joined him. And that's the good thing on the other hand, that everything I learned about sequencing and programming step sequences, I learned from Edgar himself, because I was living there and he just telling me every day you have to do that step the same as that step because of he had rules for everything, and it works on many levels. So probably if I would be kind of an electronic music fan before, I would have kind of my experiences of doing it in a different way. So I was just playing synthesizer and gothic rock and progressive rock bands without sequences behind me, and so there was because there was a need of telling me the rules.
Well, they say that about people who play piano. If you're playing piano properly, as you say, you've got the rules, but there'd be a lot of things you shouldn't be doing in electronic music if you break them rules.
Yeah, but Edgar has his own rules. But it's not the rule for electronic music because on piano maybe there's rules where you put the finger on, and which when you have to change from third to the thumb again. But that's the thing. So I think Edgar showed me to program a sequencer line out of.
He was setting you up. He was lining you up really. If you think about it logically, it seems to be almost.
And I learned in 2003 till 2006, 7, or 10. And that everything he experienced from 6, 7 on. So like technical wise, but also musical wise. But I think that the first albums were very much kind of a joining thing on the same key. You have Federer, the whole album is not the whole first side is D minor, or Rubicon is C minor, Stratosphere E minor. So and then he started to change chords and structures because it's more versatile. On the other hand, it was possible because all step sequences can't shift or transpose. I think and so he has rules for every single thing, and it's fine for me. So, yeah.
We've grown up with them and absorbed them,
yeah.
and understand them, respect them, and so on.
Yeah.
And then the others fall into place. They understand it too.
Yeah.
Jumping back to September last year, you had an excellent adventure with Adrian Bang. In time, will there be anything released from this event?
The recording of that concert wasn't good at all. So no, the problem is the quality of the recording. So because of the acoustic drum set in a small room, the mics were. I think it wasn't good mic'd. The room was so small that you hear everything on every microphone. So also my model and my synth, my guitar was on the mics of his bass drum. So there are plans to go in the studio or in my studio and record a session like this again. So it was fun. He's very kind of. It sounds strange, but he's a kind of modern crowd rock drummer. Okay, crowd rock is an old term, but there's also a modern form to play it, like the guys from Camera, Michael Rother's doing this now, and it's more than all the time. He makes us more tribal things, and it works. And I think he's a great guy. He's doing, from my point of view, great cover. So he's doing the cover for the Munich session and the Seaside session, and it's fine.
Yeah. So because he's French, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have met him. He was quite a very charismatic man.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And as you say, that's why I brought the Excellent Adventure up as an example, because that was quite a catching poster.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, hang on, I forgot about that. And because I'm asking about things being recorded and unreleased, is there any chance your solo, even collaboration work from last year's memorial event, has a chance of release?
Yeah. So there are definitely plans to release the last session of the evening with Roderius Hoshiko Yamane.
What about your solo one?
Yes.
That to me, that was the standout that night. Now that's me.
Thank you very much. Maybe it's the loudest.
I don't know.
No. Okay.
It connected.
Thank you. Yeah. So there are plans to, on the first step, I think we're gonna release the 4-piece. I think on Eastgate, and I'm not sure if it's a good combination, to be honest. Maybe 3 CDs from. So I think the last thing was a special thing for the Edgar Froese Memorial Day, and I think so with these last first, and maybe my solo stuff, and maybe of Paul his solo stuff his own, but it's probably the best course.
Yeah. So you think you may just disperse them, they'll be separately through solos and Eastgate. Saying on that again, usually what happens, questions come from that. But there's obviously, as of tonight, there's going to be 5 memorial concerts that have taken place. Or do you think there would be like a collaboration of tracks from all of the 5 years perhaps put together at some point, perhaps as a memorial combination or something?
I think we recorded everything, but I'm not sure.
I mean, the first one had a lot of
Yeah, the first was
quantum
thing with
things, didn't it?
yeah, it was Hoshiko solo.
You all did solos
and picture based music,
yeah.
with a singer.
Yeah, with a singer.
I'm not sure if it would fit, to be honest. And at least in my position, I think 6-7 people on stage. I think to clear the rights for that is quite.
Well, your Picture Palace thing is quite interchangeable, isn't it? You have a lot of personnel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how many is it now? About 20 something altogether.
Okay, sometimes for singles side movies like Nosferatu, we needed a bouzouki player and a clarinet, which is not in place for doing things like Metropolis. But we had a lot of people. We had 3 keyboard players. Sometimes you have 3 drummers at the same evening. Yeah, so it depends always on the project. Mainly it was the first years was like the other Thorsten, the Thorsten Spiller and Sascha Beato on synths, and after it was Sebastian Ledowski.
But I suppose I'm jogging your memory now, because you're suddenly realising how much it's been recorded and it's sitting there, and possibilities where it could go.
So I'm not sure. So what we played. So some of the things were released by. So it's a very ugly and bad and uninteresting business side of things. But if you play things like Picture Palace or Ulrich and Hoshiko, tracks which are released maybe half a year later on a normal studio album, it's not always the best decision to release it as a live version on a different label, because maybe the label which released the normal studio album had problems with having kind of the same thing on a different label. Yeah. So it's always about clearing things,
or I suppose that may be playing with contracts, of course, but I suppose in theory the 3, if you could say, shall we release that as a combination or something?
Yeah, sure. It was more. This was for me definitely more the moment than a very good concert, to be honest. Yeah. So I think Picture Palace doesn't work.
I think the first year was
two tracks were probably 5 not from my view.
Yeah. I mean, the first year was still raw, and it was something, as you say. I mean, not everyone celebrates people beyond in an anniversary kind of way. It's unique, and yet at the same time, it seems to be. It's exceptional, isn't it? It's something wonderful to continue this thing.
So we will see. So it's the Mike Rutherford-esque Never Say Never, or the James Bond-esque.
Or if you're running out of money, then suddenly you think, how?
So if Picture Palace contains from 7 people on stage, then Hoshiko, Ulrich, a management, a record company, so it doesn't matter if I'm running out of money. It would be
probably the other way around.
2% out of something, but it doesn't matter.
All these tours and events have created many wonderful sessions of full live concerts. Many are also wondering if the Union Chapel shows will be in the offering soon.
I think it's not planned for the next release. So I have an idea we have an idea what could be the next release, but this is not the Union Chapel. So if the normal studio album is going to be released in this year, so it's maybe only 2 sessions this year. So maybe one after Recurring Dreams on K-Scope, which was released by Eastgate last year, but on 30th of January the CD version and vinyl in February. So you can't release things every month. So you can't do this. So the next, I think they have planned which sessions could be good for the next session release. Absolutely, the Union Chapel thing is on the list, definitely.
Sure.
We'll see.
Well, I'm asking the questions because someone's got to ask them, I suppose. But do you see that would be a double album, perhaps, or the 2 concerts back to back together? And is there any problems with Richard Barbieri?
No, I think this is already clear. I think it's okay. So we did this before with the Oishot Netherlands session. It was a double album with 2 sessions on 2 different days. the problem is of having 2 sessions on 2 different days is that on this situation was okay, but sometimes on the tour where you have 45 minutes for sound check. No, I'm very honest. I don't repatch every sound on the next day if I have 30-minute sound check. So some of the sounds are the same on the next day. So maybe it's better to split, not to have day 1, day 2, day 3 in a row. Because some sounds are similar. And I'm not the biggest fan of it. So the good thing about the last years, I always added small, tiny, little things to my equipment every 2 months, 3 months. So I think maybe no one recognized it, but the first sessions were monophonic on the Moller system. Then I think the first time I added guitar was 2018. No, in Duisburg. Was the first time. The first time I added the piano on my right side was in February 18. For the last 2 I added FM synthesizers. So they have always different sounds. The models in my modular system change every week sometimes, so it's a morphing context. But to use different instruments is very important to have different sounds. So I think Oslo and Göteborg, so it was, I guess, 10-minute sound check. I used exactly the same sounds on the next day. It was a different tempo, different key, but so I wouldn't be the biggest fan of releasing both in a row and a double.
See, I'm completely ignorant here because I attended both gigs at Union Chapel, but I found there was...
As a Unity something, yeah.
Well, I found that one night was like it was nostalgia and like heavy stuff, and the other night was more relaxed and chilled and a bit more. Do you see? So my ears were picking up something different.
So yeah, okay, tempo are different. Tempos are different. Or tempi are different, and the key is different. But some of the sequences are exactly the same sound.
In theory, the best production, would you say, would that be coming from when you're staying in Berlin as such, where you've got access to everything you need, or for better stability?
It's fine. So I think we are on a point where we are very used to our set of life and can make kind of good enough things to be kind of okay heavy with it. And if I need the 10th synthesizer or not, it's just another kind of flavor or just another color in but it works. My live set works quite well, so I'm very happy with my live set at the moment. So it's probably too big, but
there you go. See, my brain's now thinking that. Have you ever done a tour and then forgotten something, or felt like you
sometimes
something?
Things stop working? So I think this September, October, my Electron Digitone just was freezing. The screen was freezing, but I was powered to switch on. So but I think 2 concerts with it and every other concert without it. Sometimes one oscillator is just gone. But then I use another oscillator, or sometimes depends on temperature. So some of the old gear I have in my studio, I have a very old Solina from '73, and Solina itself decides which note isn't working per day, because on the Solina you have 11 oscillators and divider after it, and so if the Solina itself decides that the G doesn't work, every G in every octave doesn't work. It doesn't work. This is fine. So but live, sometimes things happen. So I think on the Cruise to the Edge year 13-12, I'm not sure, my V-synth was totally broken because it has a big touch display in the middle of it, and the guys from the border just opened every time on every airport, and someone was putting the power connector on the screen and then close my case, and this was the end of the display and last day of the display, and you have no chance to use it without seeing it. You can't change anything. That's a problem about new touchscreen synthesizer when the touchscreen isn't working. So it's a good thing on the Moog you have a knob for everything. It's fine. So yeah, but there's enough things on stage.
Yeah. So you've always got enough backup.
Yeah. Yeah. So the important things are twice. So I have 2 Moogs in my setup. So I have 4 Moogs in this moment in my setup, but 2 Voyagers and 2 Minitars. So if one is gone or doesn't tune for the day, I just use only one of the Voyagers.
And the reason I ask these questions, Thorsten, is that I understand this is your job, so perhaps there is not enough hours in the day.
Yeah, but there's a self-made problem. Everything is probably a self-made problem. So we are not good, and because I'm answering, so I'm not good at outsource things that are very important for me, like mixing things or just. So I think mastering is fine. I really love Birgit doing the mastering, but it's very music is at the end of the day. Even if you're doing it for living or job, it's an unbelievable private thing for me, and I'm not good in say, okay, this is 20 tracks, just do something around it. So this would be a good opportunity to have more time for other things or time for more music on a different level. But it's hard to decide if you lose the control as a band over the music and give something away from you, or just don't have enough time to do everything. And in this moment, we are in the position that we're doing what we can, and the day has absolutely not enough hours to do everything we like.
I think I've now asked you more than enough questions. Not long until the show tonight kicks off. I'm excited, but how are you feeling?
So today's strange because the piano. I don't know the piano, and I don't know the room. I think there's no PA. I'm not feeling well of doing things without 20 seconds of reverb on delays on everything. But I don't have to set up 2 hours or longer. A setup that. So I'm coming there. I'm just sitting down, hopefully, on the tube piano and playing some minutes, 5-10 minutes, whole evening, not more than a quarter hour, and that's it. So it's kind of being naked and lonely, to be honest. So just don't have all my stuff around me, and yeah, we will see. Maybe if I can manage it for myself to make it in some moment or situation, it would work. So as we played some advertisement gig 2008 or 7, I guess, at Dussmann, the one for the people were, for my opinion, too close. So I don't like it if some people put on my face. To be honest, there's some moments I'm getting kind of angry on stage. It was maybe I don't know. Okay, it was in Leipzig, where some of the local promoters appears. They had a paid piano on the session, and they had a piece before me. And they tried to talk to me while I'm playing. And it was the same in St. Petersburg, where someone of the local guys came on stage, and I was playing. And just talk to me. Don't do this, please. After it, before it, but when I'm playing, it's like Nicholson in Shining. If he hears this, I'm working.
Cool. I can't imagine that distraction. I can't understand why someone would do that.
Yeah. So it's just, So I can't handle this very good, to be honest.
So in a theory, you're potentially looking forward to this 5-10 minutes going.
Yeah, that's
fairly
fine.
swiftly.
So in my best case situation, the piano, I would look to the audience, so the body of the piano is between me and the people.
Of course, yeah.
Probably it's not, I guess, yeah. They will see the hands. I know, that's a problem of piano. So you just look like a guy on a counter or on a reception. I know, yeah.
Well, at least you're not rising out of the stage, out of the ground.
Yeah, but I think it would be great. I think if we can manage to make it an intimate, kind of a private situation, then...
I suppose it's like a lot of things though, isn't it? In theory, you know when you build things up, and sometimes it's a bit scary, maybe tonight will actually go really well.
So, again today, so I think it also mirrors the volume of the audience, especially on the piano. I think I'm not sure what it is, but maybe it's not a loud one. And so if you're in a situation that you have to hammering things on the tracks I would like to play, it wouldn't work at all.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna play. So it's you will listen it to after the performance. So I will probably play the intro of Underwater Sun Night, so, Song of the Whale. And if you have to hit the keys hard to that it be kind of
plonky
peaky and too high, it wouldn't work at all. So we will see. If it's loud enough, maybe I'm playing too low that nobody can hear something. But so yeah, we will see.
Yeah. And Hoshiko on the violin.
Absolutely. Without an amp, without a PA, without a mic.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, Thorsten, as always, thank you for your time today to keep us abreast of many musical things happening. Thank you also for your commitment for continuing the dream.
Thank you for having us, and yeah, thank you for your
lovely
interview.
Thank you very much, and hope this is well appreciated. Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.